Okay, what's up everyone? Today we're gonna go for another video and we're gonna do a little bit of a different thing today because I wanna create also a series here on the channel where we're highlighting certain champions that are absolutely key, especially if you're getting them in the early game, how to use them, how to equip them, and what they're actually good at. So sometimes you pull a champion, you know that they're supposed to be great, but you don't really know what to do with them. So we're gonna highlight a few of them, and the first one that we're gonna take a closer look at is Alure. She is definitely one of my favorite ones. I pulled her early on my main account. I'm still waiting on my free-to-play account to finally get one. But if you grab her, not only is she going to be amazing in Fire Knight, she's also going to help you a lot with Dark Fae and certain other content, Faction Wars, to just name another example. So let's take a quick look at her. So this is one of the allures that I use on my main account. I currently have her in Relentless gear here and also in Perception. We're going to talk a little bit about gearing options in just a moment, but first we're going to take a closer look at the skills themselves. So when we're talking about Alure, her A3, you have an extra chance to get a crit hit in, and you also have 50% ignore defense on the target. So it's just a bit of extra damage that you get. She's she's an attack-based champion, so you can try and use her as a bit of a damage dealer, but her role isn't really to be a nuker. So this is a single target spell that she has. On her A2, we're also having a decreased defense that you can get. We have a sleep as an option that you can get there too. And this is something where you attack essentially every single enemy on the other side. So if you don't have anybody that can apply a decreased defense, you are able to apply one here with a 30% decrease. But the one ability that really makes and breaks Alure is her A1. This is one of the best by far. So you have 3 attacks on her A1, which makes her immediately fantastic for the Fire Knight, because you have a much better chance of breaking through that shield. And then in addition to that, you also decrease the target's turn meter by 25% on each critical hit. Now you might have already noticed that when we were talking about the abilities here, nothing really changes when you're looking at the books. So we have her in total with 4 books that you would need to book her A1. We have her with another 6 on her A2, and we have her with 2 on her A3. The thing about her is you basically don't need to use any books at all. Now, if you have them available, then by all means drop them and try and improve her damage a bit. But her main function is really the cooldown reduction. For Dark Fae, this is amazing if you're trying to break through Doom Tower stages that you have formerly not been able to deal with, because once that she goes first, she's gonna be in a spot where she can just reduce turn meter on the other side, and you basically have just a complete roll over the boss, and it will never get a turn if you play your cards right. All you need to do here really is to make sure that she has 100% crit rate on her A1, make her fast, get a bit of accuracy, and then really just like keep this going the entire time and get the damage through her. Her A1 is really everything that you need to have. Everything else is a bonus, and we're gonna go for a bit of a run later to just showcase you how that exactly works. That means that when we're talking about her stats, the real crucial part is the 100% crit rate. So she doesn't need some S tier gear or anything of the sorts. You can make her obviously a little bit faster, you can make her a little bit stronger. The harder she hits, the shorter your runs are. But what you really need to do is she needs to survive the run towards the boss, and then she just needs to do her thing. So in this case, I have her with 113% crit rate, overshot this a little bit. I have her on 166% crit damage. Again, no crazy stats. This is not S tier gear by any means. We have 355 accuracy for her and speed on a 256. We can go over the items real quickly, but as I already said, this isn't really anything amazing. As you can tell here, the gear isn't even ascended, so I could boost her output even further if I ascended the gear. But what's important here is that I have speed on basically all of the items. The perception set gives me additional accuracy, and I also have, of course, a little bit more speed. And then I put her in a Relentless just because these extra turns that she gets makes the runs even more reliable. And I'm then in a position where I can also just have guaranteed runs where the turn meter of the opponent is consistently low. So in this case, again, just a little bit of the stuff here. Nothing really ascended. I still have her with crit damage because at the end of the day, obviously, we're looking at a champion that has already, by necessity, 100% crit rate. So getting that extra crit damage isn't really a problem. Have her in another banner that also has speed. And that's essentially already it for her. Now, when we're talking about her blessing, cruelty is actually a pretty decent one. If you get a higher blessing, fantastic. But it's more about the defense decrease that you want to have on the opponent, so she can really use that and get quite strong with it. And I'm going to show you right now at the Fire Knight what she can do. Currently, Dark Fae is not open, so we don't have the Doom Tower rotation, so I can't show you on the boss there. The principle is still the same. You can use her, by the way, also in faction crypts quite nicely, and in a lot of other areas of the game too. She's not massively versatile, so as you can see here, there's certain areas where she does well, but when we're talking about Arena, when we're talking about the Spider Stand, for example, or when we're talking about, I don't know, Demon Lord, Hydra, that's not really where she shines. She's really a specialist that, especially when pulled early or in the mid-game, helps you to break through certain content and can be incredibly useful there. And even on my account, I still use her in certain roles. So if you pull an Allure early, then she is going to be a fantastic tool for you to use. So let's just show that real quickly when we're heading into Fire Knight, for example. So for this example, we're taking a closer look at stage 25 of the Fire Knight. I already prepped a team composition here. Again, you don't need a team like this. I have 2 Allures in right now just to showcase even more so what kind of impact you have with the turn meter reduction. So you can set actually anything up, but I'll show you the main idea here. So in this case, the whole game is really to have 3 champions or 2 that help you to go through the waves. Then on the 3rd wave, when we're facing the Fire Knight, I disabled all the abilities of Allure. I only have her contribute her A1 because that's what I need from her. I need her to break through the shield of the Fire Knight, and I need her to make sure that he never gets a turn. Now, you don't need a champion like a Krisha here, you don't need Lydia, you don't need Sia. If you don't have any of these champions in the early game, that's absolutely fine. You also don't need 2 Allures, you can throw another Cold Heart in here. If you have Armiga, you can use Armiga as well. If you have a hero that gives you a decreased speed on the Fire Knight, that helps you too. But obviously what you still will need are champions that help you to break through the shield, and then Allure is going to do her thing. So anything that helps you survive through the waves and then can do damage to the Fire Knight itself is gonna work. Now, especially in the early game, that's something that you really need to invest to. So pulling Allure early is super helpful because it gives you access to Savage gear, it gives you access to regeneration gear through the Fire Knight. Here I can already see how this is going to work out. So this isn't optimized. I didn't put my Yumeko in the team composition or anything like that to reset that and speed run the Fire Knight, but it gives you also a chance to see how Allure actually works on these minion waves. So we're going through the first one fairly easily. Again, this is like an older setup that I've used a while ago. By now, obviously, I'm farming Fire Knight hard. But in here on the second wave, nobody is essentially going to get a turn because Allure is just going to get these attacks out. One of them in Relentless, so I have an even higher chance to control the turn meter completely. But all that you have to do if you don't have any of these other champions is just use a lineup that keeps you generally alive. Ideally has on their A1 some multiple attacks so that it can break through the Fire Knight's shield, and that helps you to proceed. One of the things that I did with one of the accounts that I played is to use Armiga, who also has a bit of control when it comes to turn meter, but he honestly pales when we're talking about Allure. You have some other alternatives too. I mentioned Cold Heart earlier, who of course also has a certain amount of turn meter control that can be utilized. And then you have, I think, Gorilla is her name. She's a little bit newer, but she can also do a similar thing. But Allure, for me personally, is still one of my favorites, just simply because it is so clear-cut what she does as a specialist that you can use this in so many different areas. And especially Dark Fae, she helped me a lot there. I had a lot of trouble with Dark Fae until I was able to get a proper lineup with Allure together. But here you can see how quickly she bursts through that shield, and then once the shield is down, that Fire Knight is never going to take a turn. So in this case, we're going to break through the shield, and now Allure is just going to burst that turn meter down, and it's never going to get back up again. So the Fire Knight can't do anything, and this is the beauty of having this. I can't stress enough how important it is with a newer or mid-level account to farm high-level Fire Knight to get that Savage and Regeneration gear. There's obviously also a couple of other sets that you might be looking out for, say, for example, Stun. But generally speaking, this is really super important. So if you pull an Allure there, make sure that you get her with decent crit rate. If you get her above 100% crit rate, that also means that on weak hits she can still crit. So that can be kind of important. Keep that a bit in mind. We talked about weak affinities in one of the other videos, but that's definitely something to at least consider when you are doing your runs. So long story short, Alure, fantastic champion. Make sure that you gear her well. If you are preparing team compositions, then just ban out her A2, her A3. Make sure that she uses her A1. You don't need to book her. If you have the access books, you can do it for extra damage, but it's not even needed to get the most out of that champion. So she's an absolute specialist in what she does, and if you pulled her, then hey, congratulations, you're going to have a much easier time from here on out on the Fire Knight and other areas in the game. With that, we're done for the day. So we're going to take a couple of looks at also other champions in the near future. For today, it was Alure. I hope that you learned something. If you have anything to add, please post it in the comment section and give the video a thumbs up if you made it this far. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.